Welcome to a fashion doll shoes tutorial.
The resin soles required some more sanding and painting, so I can't continue with them yet. And I was planning on experimenting a bit with mold maker. This is mold making clay, and I don't know if there are other brands, probably. This is the one I managed to find. And let's see, I'll take this as close as I can, so here you can see the text. Hopefully you can read what it says there. And this is meant for one-sided molds, and that means like the ones in the flat soles in an older video I've made. Those were made using mold made with this clay, and the more recent one I have made is this. It's a heel. Here is a resin casting I used for making the mold, and it's for this one. Is it? It looks too long. I thought it was for this one. Well, it doesn't matter. You can always cut the excess either before baking or after baking the pieces you make with the mold. That's easy when you're making a heel. I haven't tried this one. The problem here could be that this slanting bit here, it could make it difficult to move the piece from this mold when you press the clay in it to make the heel, and then you need to remove it from the mold, and that could be difficult, but I don't know because I haven't tried it yet. But the one for which I want to make mold using this clay is this heel. It's for Miss Piggy, and the problem is this makes too deep mold. This front of the heel is the natural part for the opening, so it means that it needs to be this way. And I don't think I could remove the heel from that sort of mold without distorting it really badly. So I decided to try making a two-part mold, and that's what I've done with silicone. That's fairly easy. Well, not easy, but it's how it's supposed to be done with silicone. With this one you're supposed to make this sort of molds, not two-part molds. The first problem is that this clay needs to be baked in the oven in 130 degrees Celsius, and this, when making a two-part mold, the way I'm planning to do it, this needs to remain inside the clay while it is being baked. And if this was painted or varnished, I'm not sure what would happen. I don't know if paint or varnish could take the heat or how it would react together with the clay. So I needed an unpainted heel for making this mold. So this is plaster casting, and I'm fairly certain that this is going to work. because the clay won't stick to this plaster casting. The surface is such that it shouldn't stick, but of course we'll see when I take the mold out of the oven. And just take the clay here. See how much I'm going to need for. This is really soft, and the way you do it normally is you make a flat piece, put it in the fridge to cool down, and then press the item to it to make an indent, and then remove the item. But this is much more simple. I'm just pressing the clay on top of the heel. I think that side needs a bit more. Just covering it and pressing it tightly so there won't be any air pockets anywhere. The idea is that when I have baked this, I'm going to cut it half this way, and then it can be used so that when you make the heel you press the two halves together, fill the mold, and then take them apart and remove the heel. That's the theory, and we'll see how the practice goes. And I hope there is enough clay to make this mold sturdy enough. Oh, this is the first experiment. I'll make this and then I'll find out what went wrong and fix that in the next mold. These experiments rarely are very successful on the first try, but you need to start somewhere. So it's there, and now it needs to be baked. But it's a waste to heat the oven just for one small piece. So I'm going to make some heels using this mold to see how it goes, and so then I can bake them at the same time as I bake this one. The instructions in the mold making clay package tell you to use the same brand clay to make the items you make using the mold, but that's just because they want you to buy more of their stuff. I'm using these two because these are easiest to find here, and both work just fine. So you don't need the same brand clay as the mold making clay is. Any polymer clay is fine. And the main difference between these two is that this one is really hard. It takes time to make it soft enough to press into the mold, and this one, especially this, that's just soft, but all clays of this brand, I've noticed, they are too soft. They get really sticky fast, and I have heard that it's it's different for different people, and it depends somehow on your hands, maybe how cold or warm your hands are, things like that. So the only way to find out which one works best for you is to try. I'm usually using this harder one because even though it's more work, it doesn't get sticky. Although I did manage to get this sort of clay too sticky at one point when I was trying the other use of the mold making clay, which is to make this clay softer, and I put a bit too much of it into the clay and it got so soft and sticky that I couldn't use it. So if you want to use that as a clay softener, you need to be careful. Start with really tiny amounts, because it's always easier to add more than take away. The only way to take away is to add more clay, and if you don't manage to get the clay usable, you're just going to waste more clay. So if you notice that the base is getting really too sticky, just throw it away. Start from the beginning. You'll save clay that way. Okay, maybe this is soft enough. Just take a bit of it and then press it into the mold. And the instructions also say to mist the mold. But what I do is I just open the tap and let some water into the mold and then shake away the excess. That's faster and easier and works just as well. And then press the clay tightly into the mold so that you get exactly the right shape. And then we'll see if I can get this out. Trying to get the edges to separate. This mold making clay is more flexible than the regular clay, so now that the edges are separating, I should be able to get that end out of the mold. Yeah, emphasis on should be. Okay. Well, that doesn't look very promising. Trying to get it out carefully, and this is the hardest part, getting that part out so that it keeps the correct shape. I don't think, well, this doesn't look anything like this. So I think we can say that this doesn't work. It doesn't work. So maybe is my knife. Can't see. Where have I put? Oh, there. There is the knife. And as this doesn't work as it is, why is this stuck? Oh dear. What have I done with this? Damn it. Let's see. I'll try another one. Maybe this will work. This should be sharp. So, this is really interesting one. You hold it like this. And it's from the same manufacturer as these. And I really like Fiskars products. I found this in the craft shop. I just saw it and thought it looked interesting, so of course I had to get it, and it has turned out to be really useful. So this doesn't work as one part, so I'm cutting it in two. This is what I'm planning to do with that one, but try it with this one. Now it's in two parts. And try again. See what happens. I wonder how easy it will be to keep these two halves together, because this is fairly soft material. I think there should be some way of making that easier. I have to think about it, but right now just pressing the clay there, and it's hopefully the size will be at least correct with this. We'll see. Right. Then we'll take that off. Well, it's pulling it, so it's, oh, carefully. Let's see. At least the size seems to be right. Now there's the problem that the seam is showing, and of course it's not quite straight, so it needs to be straightened here. Well, it's better than the first try. I'll make another one, so I'll get a pair, and I think I think I'm going to use these so that I'll cover the heel with something so that seam is not a problem. But I really need to figure out a way to keep these parts together properly. I suppose this is just too thin. If the walls of the mold were thicker, it probably would work better. And I'm really thinking that maybe this kind of mold should be done using the normal clay as it's stiffer. It would be easier to keep the two halves of the mold together. The seam is even worse there, and there's some extra clay there. Remove it. Well, these are good enough for covering with fabric or leather. And I'm really going to fix the length after baking when I know which shoes I'll use this for. Oh, not perfect, but at least the right size and shape.